Good morning, I'm Adam Sexton, and thanks for joining us on Close Up. The people's work on Capitol Hill has found its new normal amid this pandemic, but the House and Senate are still trying to get to yes on a second COVID-19 relief package. This summer, the House of Representatives is also turning to the work of collectively holding on to their jobs. One of those reps seeking re-election is Congressman Chris Pappas. Congressman, thanks for connecting with us today.
Hi, Adam. Nice to join you.
So the last week or so, you highlighted some of the success stories of the Paycheck Protection Program. One, are you satisfied this aid is making it all the way down to the people who need it most? And two, as this pandemic goes on, it's likely another round of aid is probably going to be needed in this regard. In your opinion, to what extent is the federal government responsible to continue saving these jobs time and again?
Well, the Paycheck Protection Program has provided an economic lifeline for so many of our Main Street businesses that drive our economy right here in New Hampshire. It's kept individuals connected to their place of employment. In my district alone, more than 123,000 jobs have been protected because of the PPP. More than 14,000 businesses have accessed those funds, over $1 billion just going to this district alone. So it's been significant. One of the concerns early on was that many of our mom and pop businesses, our Main Street businesses, weren't the first ones in line. We saw a lot of these big companies with a lot of lawyers and accountants who were first in line for these funds. You heard of groups like Ruth Chris, who got a PPP loan. So we continue to need oversight to make sure that these dollars are going to the right place and that we're able to claw back some of these loans that went to folks who frankly didn't need it. But I think we're getting to the point where we do need a second round. You know, many have reached the end of the loan period, but they're still experiencing economic pain. I was at a petroleum delivery company yesterday and talking with a gentleman who's just seeing about 75% of his normal business. If you talk to our restaurants, our travel and tourism businesses, they may be lucky to be seeing about 25 to 30% of their normal volume right now. So I think we need another round of PPP that's targeted to our smallest businesses and those that are continuing to experience financial harm because of this. That's going to be so crucial to make sure that they can weather this storm and that our workers, many of whom have been displaced right now, stay connected to their jobs so that we can recover and come out stronger on the other side.
Congressman, pandemic real-time data disappeared from the CDC website earlier this week and prompting an outcry, and it was reinstated after people complained. The Trump administration has also stepped in to require hospitals to send COVID-19 numbers directly to the White House rather than through the CDC. Do you think this administration is doing an adequate job on the public information aspect of this pandemic?
No. And they shut down the coronavirus task force. They suspended those daily briefings that were an opportunity for us to hear from folks like Dr. Fauci on a regular basis about vital public health information. Information is power in this pandemic, and we all need it to understand this virus, to know how we can protect ourselves and know what role we can play to keep others around us safe. And so to play games with the data like this is just unconscionable, but it fits with the pattern of what this administration has done from the very beginning. They didn't want to test because he was afraid of what the numbers would show. He calls testing a double-edged sword, when we all know it's one of the best tools we have to lower the infection rate, to identify coronavirus infections, and to keep people safe. So we need a much more robust federal effort right now. We continue to need the administration to deploy the Defense Production Act to scale up production of vital PPE materials that our hospitals and our healthcare workers and frontline workers are burning through very quickly. And also on the testing front to support increased testing, especially in those hotspots where we're seeing there aren't enough testing resources. So while our numbers are good here in New Hampshire, we have to continue to stay informed by the data, because that's going to allow us to make real-time decisions on what activities are safe and what measures might need to be put in place to protect our economy and our communities. Many governors see this as sort of a dimmer switch mentality, where when numbers go up, they can scale back on some of the reopening measures that we've taken. And I think this data is just so important. So we shouldn't be playing games with the numbers. We should be very transparent about where we stand and the steps we need to take.
All of this, of course, unfolding in an election year. You've got almost 2 decades in politics now under your belt, even though you're relatively young. How do you campaign in a situation like this?
It's a lot different. You know, this week in the evening, I've done several house parties. I did 7 over the last 3 nights. So that's one way where you can connect with hundreds of folks online. but I really do miss the in-person experience, and I hope we can get back to that at some point in the near future if it's safe to do so. But our election is going to look a lot different than it has in the past. Usually, we'll see a small percentage of folks voting by absentee ballot. This year, the Secretary of State has given New Hampshire voters the opportunity to vote safely from home, which is a good thing considering the pandemic and the number of folks that are at risk. So a lot of our efforts are going to be focused on making sure that voters are engaged, that they're excited to participate, and ensuring that every vote is going to count. We can't see a situation like we saw in Wisconsin or Georgia, where we have long lines and people putting themselves in an unsafe situation on Election Day. We've got to make sure that everyone's voice can be heard ultimately in one of the most important elections of our lifetime.
Let's shift to law enforcement accountability and reform. A lot of work already being done on this front. But do you think that local departments should be able to keep the military-style vehicles that they already have, like the Bearcats and the MRAPs?
Well, we recently passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which was an important step forward, a transformational bill to bring some increased accountability. And one of the provisions was stopping the transfer of some of these military style vehicles and equipment to our local law enforcement. And I think that there's a value to some of this equipment. And I've heard that from local law enforcement, all-weather gear and things like that come from the military are absolutely appropriate. I don't think our local law enforcement should necessarily have to give anything back. But I do think we should be cognizant of what kind of transfers can be made moving forward. But we've got a lot of work to do on this front. And I've been encouraged to see the conversation that continues to move forward here in New Hampshire and at the federal level as well. And if ultimately we're going to create a system where there is liberty and justice for all, where everyone is respected, where we see the dignity of each and every person, we're going to have to continue to talk not just about policing, but about all aspects of our society and how we can realize the true promise of America for everyone.
Do you believe that officers should retain their qualified immunity?
Well, I think that we do need to see increased accountability, and the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act would get rid of qualified immunity, which is a concept that was created by the courts a couple decades ago. And I think we've got to look for ways to highlight the work that good police officers are doing and look for ways to deal with the problem officers. I've heard from law enforcement here that no one hates a bad cop as much as a good cop. And we've got to create a system to see a culture change in law enforcement. One of the priorities that I have is creating a new grant program for local law enforcement to go through the accreditation process. This is one thing that some of our agencies are able to do here in New Hampshire, and it's been tremendous to allow them to look at best practices, training, and really look under the hood of their local police department. I think more of our law enforcement should be going through this process, and I'd like to make some money available for them to do that.
And of course, your home city, Manchester, is seeing a real surge in gun violence just in the last few weeks and over this summer. It would seem at the moment the bigger problem is community violence, not police violence. But in the discussion for a lot of Democrats, the discussion is how do we move funding away from police departments and towards social services? So do you think this is the appropriate time, particularly in the Queen City, when you're seeing a surge in violence, to move funding away from police?
I think our law enforcement needs more resources, and that's why I've been fighting for funding for law enforcement in Washington. We passed the HEROES Act 2 months ago, which would provide significant support for our vital local services, including public health, education, and law enforcement. Right now, our communities are seeing a decrease in tax revenue, and I'm worried about the position that puts them in terms of potentially raising taxes or cutting vital services like police at a time where we need them more than ever. So I've been fighting for funding that will make sure these services can go forward at an important time. We don't want to see any dislocation during this pandemic. And there are ways that we can support law enforcement by investing in other places too. I've heard from members of the Manchester Police Department here about how supporting robust social services will ease the pressure on law enforcement to respond to a whole host of situations. We lay a lot at their feet, from mental health issues to addiction to homelessness. And we've got to make sure that individuals aren't getting to a crisis point where law enforcement might be called. And that's why supporting their budget, but also supporting investment in social services is important to make sure our community needs are met.
So the Russians are allegedly paying bounties to the Taliban to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan. A top general has said he's not convinced any deaths are actually connected to this program, but he did call it, quote, very worrisome. Why are we seeing a more robust response out of Washington at large about this?
These reports are absolutely chilling. And the most important thing that our government can do, our president can do, is protect those who are wearing the uniform of this country and are serving in harm's way. And the fact that a foreign government, Russia, may have been putting bounties on the heads of our young men and women in our armed forces is just, really frightening. And it deserves the full attention of our government. We haven't been fully briefed. I think that every member of Congress should receive a briefing on this. And we've got to be moving swiftly to investigate, to look into these allegations, and to make sure we're taking every step necessary to protect our forces.
So within the last week here, you were one of those verified accounts, I believe, on Twitter in this attack that stopped some of the blue checkmark Twitter from being able to tweet. So is this a minor inconvenience, or is this a very serious indicator of problems in this platform and the ability to communicate digitally moving forward?
Well, I think it would be a good thing if we all took a step back from social media every now and then and maybe didn't tweet or post as much. The president certainly could learn a lot from that. But I think it is disturbing to see the disruptions that can happen for those with bad intentions, those who can hack into our data systems, our computer systems, our election systems, for instance. And we know that foreign interests have been poking around in those areas over the last several years. So it's a cause for concern. And that's why I think we not only have to secure our data, but we have to work to look coming election at how we can make sure that goes off in a fashion where everyone can trust the result, where it has a high degree of integrity. And that's why I've been disappointed that the Senate hasn't taken up our legislation at increased election security and protection for that crucial online data. So we'll continue to work at that and pay attention to that. And I think we're living in a new world, and we've got to be prepared and understand the threats that exist.
Okay, Congressman Chris Pappas, thank you for connecting with us here on Close Up, and we'll see you out there on the virtual campaign trail.
Thanks, Adam. Be well.